The Conviction Arc is what makes Berserk, Berserk. It's the section of the story that defines what Berserk is thematically, as it sets up every piece of the series' future. I mean literally every piece. If the Golden Age is the backstory for Berserk, the one to build up Guts and Griffith, and if the Black Swordsman is the one to show Guts' darkness and the horrors of the world, then Conviction is where it all really gets started. Ultimately, Berserk is the story of Guts defying fate in a quest to kill Griffith. And this is the arc where Guts not only begins to build meaningful bonds, but more importantly where he himself realizes it's okay to have such bonds on that quest. Revenge is dark, sure, but Guts learns it doesn't have to be that dark. This arc signals Guts' redemption. He's forced to face his internal darkness in the face of an event just like the one that made him that way. He is to pick between becoming a beast of darkness or choosing the one precious to him, his lover, Casca. This standout point of Guts' life is shown through an arc all about religious fundamentalism, but something even crazier might be happening. All I'm gonna say is the world is basically being rebirthed and Griffith might be coming back. All to say, it's a heavy arc. I might even go as far as saying it's the best arc in the series. This video is meant to serve as the ultimate look back on that arc, recapping as I analyze its deepest elements. If any of that interests you, remember to grab a snack, set me up in the background to listen to as you study or something, and of course grab your sword. You're gonna need it for this one. It's Berserk. But thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the video. In the aftermath of the Lost Children arc, Skull Knight follows Guts' footsteps. He notes how troubling this path can be, questioning if Guts can continue on as things are. He then finds a bay lid under all the rubble, staring at it for a moment before... He eats it? What? Yeah, there's no explanation, we have no idea either. I just didn't see that coming. Regardless, beginning this arc with his appearance means something huge is bound to happen soon. We then catch back up to Guts, him facing the aftermath of the last arc in his own way. That was his toughest fight as the Black Swordsman yet, as not only is he physically destroyed, but he's clearly on the rocks mentally, as even the usual small spirits begin to bother him. Curiously, they begin to take the form of a wolf. Guts stinks of the darkness close to them. His inner beast of darkness thirsts for more and more blood. The more he kills, the more he'll end up killing. Once he falls into the darkness, things will only fall further.
Then the beast will consume you. It will take your place. You will come to feel nothing but hatred. You will become a monster in the form of a man. Perhaps you can become a real monster, like your friend.
Guts collapses. The spirits are beating him, a way to say that as of right now, he is losing to his inner darkness. He questions himself, knowing he uses the darkness to reach Griffith, his dream of revenge. Yet more than anything, he seems scared of the darkness. How long can he do this for? He knows as well as we do, the darkness will consume him eventually. To really nail in the coffin, Guts envisions himself climbing up to Griffith, an unsurpassable mountain compared to himself. With this, Guts blacks out and we follow Puck, switching from the deep darkness to the everlasting light as he finds Guts to give him a lecture. He smacks him on the head and nervously pushes the weak spirits away, Guts awakening as the last of them dissolve. Contrary to how he was before, Guts laughs. He can't be tense with Puck around. He pushes the spiritual marks away with ease, now standing up.
Monster? Screw that. I'm me. There's nothing else. I am what I am, and I will make my way to him.
Better yet, Guts finally calls Puck by his name after all this time. This screaming that Guts is truly happy to have remained in the light despite facing darkness so many times before. You just really gotta love Puck. Yet underneath this light moment, tragedy strikes. The Holy Iron Chain Knights that have been pursuing Guts finally catch up. Their leader, Farnese, calls in the Hawk of Darkness, referring to a prophecy all about Griffith, yet one they don't know any better about. The Knights take charge to capture Guts. all under the impression that the previous apostle's victims, Rosines, were his. Guts is in no shape to fight, so battered he can't even lift his sword, yet even these holy knights falter against him. Funny enough, Serpico, a notable knight and Farnese's right-hand man, states this is because they're, quote, pretty boy knights, family of nobles who wish their kin to not be taken into battle, meaning these knights basically collect their paychecks and never see any battle. That's how Guts is winning right now. Eventually, they push Guts to the point where he has to swing his sword, his arms completely breaking and bursting into blood as he cleaves the knights away. This leads Iron Club Azan to step up, an actual competent opponent, and to prove that, Guts has actually even heard of his feats before, so they share names and spring into battle. Going against someone with actual experience means Guts is now on the losing end, being pushed into a corner as he plans out one last action, taking their leader, Farnese, hostage. He springs at Azan, using him as a foothold to boost himself towards Farnese. Appearing like a monster in front of her before, a hunk of wood is thrown at one of Guts' major wounds, instantly pushing him out of consciousness. With this, Farnese's sword meets his shoulder and all believe her to have one-shot their beloved Hawk of Darkness. Yet it's very obvious Serpico was the one who threw the wood. This shows that despite being leader of these holy knights, Farnese herself is not very apt to battle. She couldn't even move in the face of Guts. It also shows we need to pay attention to Serpico. He knew exactly where Guts was critically injured and where to throw the wood. Not an easy thing to take note of when you consider the chaos all around Guts up to now. The knights then gang up on Guts, now prisoner, but Azan stops them, showing him to be very honorable. He then turns to Farnese. It's the first time she's ever drawn blood, but she needs to be a leader. Her looking towards Guts as he awakens to the realization he's been taken prisoner. Some time passes when in a camp, Guts is brought before Farnese. She dismisses the knights around, them noticeably giving her a hard time despite her rank, but finally alone she intends to ask Guts some questions. Even then, Guts himself gives her a hard time, laughing while stating her and God must not get along well. All to say that literally nobody takes Farnese seriously. Guts, who just met her, feels no sort of intimidation, and as the reader, neither do I. We're not really meant to feel scared of her at this point. She asks him about his large arsenal of weapons before finding his baylet. Having no idea what it is, she links Guts to being a heretic, which prompts him to ask if she believes in gods and demons. Has she ever even met one? She then delivers a picture-perfect speech about God, one Guts can't help but laugh at. It sounds very rehearsed. He thinks their devotion isn't worth a damn, seeing it as a big waste of time. He tells her of priests that he's seen who've done horrible things. Talking to a statue like those who do horrible things doesn't do anything, it doesn't prove anything. Yet Guts, gauging her reaction, realizes Farnese wouldn't understand anything if he told her the true reality of the world they live in. She whips him and swears on her faith, Guts stating she's beyond herself. If she brandishes her faith and devotion to God, she can wish her reputation goodbye. She's just as hollow as the idol she worships. She's pushed into a frenzy of whipping Guts, and upon drawing blood, I dare say she was enjoying it. I mean, what else is that face meant to say? But ultimately she stopped because people are hearing these loud noises. Something to note is that Serpico slips in behind Guts and tells him to not antagonize Farnese, which is a small moment that tells us he isn't just the sidekick to her. He has a very big, great deal of respect for her, which leaves us a lot to think about. With this, Guts is left in a cage out in the cold. But worse than that, night falls. His brain begins to bleed. He begins to see spirits. All meaning it's definitely time for an escape. Puck comes out of nowhere at the perfect time with keys, and though very upset about it, Puck gets Guts to say, "Thank you very much, oh great Puck," and Puck even gets him to say it again. He rushes to the tent with his stuff to find Farnese whipping herself in front of the idol's statue. Covered in wounds, she prays and asks for guidance. Not thinking much of it, Guts knocks her out and finds his stuff. Puck noting that he can't push himself or his injuries will open again. Guts then opts to take the easy route, using Farnese as a hostage to easily make it out alive, running away on horseback as the woman awakens. As she cries, Puck introduces himself, but she literally can't see him. Not like ignoring him, not too scared to notice him, but she literally cannot perceive Puck. He explains it is those who cling to the rigid world don't perceive elves. Their faith is so strong they can't comprehend something not fitting those strict guidelines. Though since deep in the dead of the night, spirits approach, first attacking Serpico, who was closely behind. He opens his eyes trying to take a shot at Guts, not only being scary, but yet again showing he's very set on protecting Farnese, but he's ambushed by spirits and loses them. The same happens to Guts, forcing him to counter as he wonders if his body can last till morning. Farnese can't comprehend these spirits either, seeing Guts swinging at nothing in the dark, but when they do finally touch her, it all changes. Her eyes are open to the horrors before her as she's speechless. Guts slaughters them as he tells her to keep her eyes open. God's putting on a show for them. He drops her to fight back but states that when all is done, he needs to know why they're following her. And as they're approached by more demon kind, she's falling apart, unable to comprehend this at all.
Can't happen. That's why it's called a miracle.
Guts cleaves the spirits to bits despite his injuries, immersing himself with the rage needed as Farnese watches on in fear. Not even words of prayer are coming to mind. The veil has been ripped from her mind as she thinks of escape, finding a horse to ride away on, but not even this can save her. The horse under demonic influence stands up and pushes her down, quote, mounting the woman, as he plans an act so horrific I can't even believe it. Guts looks over, the sight reminding him all too well of his own horrors. Breaking him into a frenzy, he rages on as he cleaves the horse in half, narrowly avoiding Farnese and causing his wounds to explode. Puck, able to sense emotions, questions why all of a sudden Guts got so much worse, looking inside to see this. A small, horrifying glimpse of everything Guts has been through, a single frame of the eclipse, enough to send Puck into pure fear. On the other hand, Guts thanks the spirits. He no longer cares one bit. He's been reminded of the feelings that started it all, the worst he could ever feel. With an emotionless look in his eyes, he stays he'll die until the day breaks. Sun begins to rise as Guts basks in the blood of demons. Farnese forced to watch as he pants like a beast. The image touched her. It was both solemn and beautiful. She's terrified, shivering in fear, yet not once, as a woman of God, called for her Lord. She views herself as nothing short of wretched and powerless. This, the perfect person for a spirit to take hold of. A black speck of demonhood slithers up to her and begins deluding her with words of darkness. The spirit voices her inner lust, that while she thrashes herself with her whip for the Lord, it's in reality for a morbid lust. She lies to herself for a religion, using it as an excuse to push herself deeper into pleasure. She's hollow inside, insignificant, and fearful because she knows she's nothing without religion. She's just drunk on the authority given by God. In reality, the truth inside of her is the dark desires. Farnese gives in and is possessed by the spirit, strolling over to Guts as she begins to ride his sword, asking him to slice her into two for the sake of pleasure. It's then that the sun shines over the mountains and extinguishes the spirit, Farnese breaking into tears as she returns to her senses. She begins to scream and Serpico approaches. She screams for him to kill Guts, for the sake of her honor. Yet Serpico knows they not only need to question him, but he probably wouldn't even get close to killing Guts. She slaps him before he looks to Guts, noting that he made her cry again. And as all is seemingly resolved, Serpico takes a chance at Guts, then both complimenting each other on their draws before Serpico notes it was expected. He couldn't beat Guts. He says farewell to Guts and even Puck, meaning he can comprehend ideas out of the rigid world. Something to note. As Puck reflects on the weird night, Farnese walks away in tears. She needs to kill Guts. Yet when she begins to state why he can't be allowed to live, she is nothing. She has no idea why Guts needs to be killed. The Conviction Arc starts off with the bang, and before we even get to the Farnese stuff, any of the deeper discussion, we of course have to talk about the horse. The horse, which has for some reason bizarrely become somewhat a meme, or I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say it used to be kind of a meme. Don't even know why you'd find that funny, but yeah, I'm gonna explain that this moment actually does have significance in the world and story of Berserk, even if it's disgusting, and I'll agree with you on that. It's actually quite a powerful moment, everything considered, even though I do think it's a bit too far. In Berserk, nudity and sexual violence is often used to depict the harsh realities of the world, as not only is the body the most precious thing to yourself, but an attack on that very precious part of yourself is especially harmful and impactful. And while Miura has countless examples of it being used rather lazily, sexual violence being a way for him to move scenes along quicker rather than drawing a battle, this here is actually an example of a great use. The horse is very horrible, yes, but the scene is horrible because it needs to be. Like many times before, it's a moment that rips the bandage off and shows the harsh truth of Berserk. Right here, it's so Farnese can view the reality of her world, that while she believes in God and everything holy, that's not all that exists. It's a really big moment for her. This being the idea that introduces that there is more than religion. This isn't Berserk saying religion is bad. Matter of fact, I want to say as a whole, this arc isn't against religion at all. It's simply a question about a big part of it. The Conviction Arc isn't a critique about being religious, nor is it a critique on religion existing. It's just a big question on how it's been used and how it can affect people. The central idea that is being tackled here can be labeled as religious fundamentalism. The idea that one must strictly follow holy texts and tradition. That is the idea that is being questioned in this arc. It is the central question behind the storyline. Just keep that in your mind as we go. Farnese has appeared into the story as this holy leader going against a man considered a demon by all definitions, Guts. She carries herself with confidence, loudly barking orders, and by all definitions stands proud. Yet as we see more of her, we learn that her knights not only suck, but her true self isn't close to that confidence that she exudes. When Guts speaks to her, an overpowering figure, her authoritative presence just disappears. While she may have defenses for his harsh questions, they seem very rehearsed. And when Guts has the guts to speak about God, she becomes unstable and out of control. We then see her whipping herself in the name of God before Guts finds her. And after Guts finds her, shows her everything, well, she doesn't know what to do. Farnese is forced to see that God isn't all there is to the world. She's not yet able to comprehend this, as shown with Puck, she can't see him. But by the end of this section, she knows it exists, even if she can't recognize it. I also had to note that when the spirit had possessed her and she went on to do that stuff, it was really only possessing her through already existing feelings. The darkest feelings to Farnese being that uncontrollable lust. There's also the moment in the end where she wants Guts dead. It's very certain she doesn't want him to exist anymore, but when she tries to give a reason, she yet again can't think of anything. It's like a mental block, she doesn't know why, she just does. All this creates the idea that Farnese might literally only know her religion. Anything outside of it doesn't exist. Anything outside of it, she won't allow her mind to comprehend. There's a mental block for anything that's not religion. When someone like Guts comes in and shatters this, she can't comprehend it, as we just seen. When she's forced to view the horrors of the world and admit her darkest feelings to herself, she can't deny that they exist, but she, yet again, doesn't know what to say. The truth is, if she acknowledges any of these things, any of the events from the last few chapters, well, it completely ruins her religious aspect. And so I think it would be pretty accurate to say this encounter with Guts has broke Farnese on every level. It's the first step to building up Farnese, completely shattering her world so we can see through the cracks. We haven't seen much yet, the mirror's just shattered, but I gotta say, as we start to clean up the mess and see in between the lines, Farnese becomes one of the best written characters in this series, and probably the best written female character in the entire series. This scene is also an excellent showcase of Guts' trauma, that while he may not appear so on the outside, he is deeply pained beyond understanding. With the time as the Black Swordsman, Guts has seemed unaffected by most, masking his pain. But here we see his old horrors are still deeply engraved in his mind. An event just like the one in his biggest piece of trauma was playing out right in front of him, and therefore he used all of his strength, breaking his body beyond it already being broken, to stop it. That is quite powerful. Especially so, as a big part of the Conviction Arc is seeing whether or not Guts can grapple that humanity, whether he can save the things important to him. This is almost like proof to himself, or to us, that he can. Maybe if he can protect someone random like Farnese from similar threats, who's to say he can't do the same for Casca, his lover? It's a big moment that reminds us that Guts is still a pained man. His reasons for his actions are to not only run away from that pain, but to go viciously after the source of that pain. All to say, he can't escape it. His pain is never going to fade. But instead of acknowledging that the pain does exist, he wants to squash it out and act like it doesn't exist. He wants to bury it. It's a horrible solution for his horrible journey. It just really makes you hope he figures it out. The people saw it in their sleep. Countless people dying from plague, cities devastated, and corpses piled high everywhere. Each event happened on its own but converged under one idea, the sight of a single shining hawk. All believing this was their desired, that it would save them. A man stumbles through Midland, and notice how it's the same man who signaled two of Griffith's most important moments during the Golden Age. Them being when he fought the battle to win the 100-Year War, and then again as he was crowned general, stating then that he'll have to find new ways to climb. And here he randomly stumbles into a place destroyed by plague. He then notes how all of Midland has been destroyed by the likes of this, and instead of focusing on pushing it back, rebuilding, the king has been obsessed over capturing Griffith. He states this crisis will affect all their fates, referring to the thing people saw in their sleep. He wonders that if the darkness stated was this, then what will the Hawk of Light be? To the people of Midland, it could be none other. The White Hawk could be none other than Griffith. It almost makes the king's search make sense. It's then the man receives word the king has succumbed to illness, and as he envisions a reaper, the rats convene to form Conrad, a member of the God Hand. It's all alluding to the fact that Griffith is coming back somehow. The God Hand are creating a plague that makes people wish for their bright hero back. The man delivering this moment being the same one who delivered other big moments just seals the deal. We then swing over to the Kingdom of Midland, the castle disheveled and in sprees of random talks before we see the minister from the Golden Age state the Hawk will come again. Yet again the dream is mentioned, priests claiming it is God's revelation, a good omen, but weirdly enough after people began seeing it, the king fell ill. It's all a little too convenient. The man approaches the king's daughter, Charlotte, urging her to go see her father who's soon to die. But as she states he isn't her father, wishing the torment to be over, we view his final breaths. It's a very uncomfortable moment yet an honest one, very similar in nature to the speech he spouted while torturing Griffith. He reflects the role of king as a cold one. He can't defend himself against the cold, it's too powerful, but he can wish for fire to help him with it. The fire, or warmth, is his daughter, the one thing more important than his role, the one thing that keeps him away from the cold sure to kill him. And as he envisions his warmth nearing, the White Hawk descends to take her. The White Hawk now fully envisions Griffith, the king staring at him as he realizes maybe he had sought Griffith as a way to liberate himself from the prison he had called a throne. Thunder strikes and he dies, Princess Charlotte, now the queen, wishing to be saved by Griffith. On another battlefield, Zod cuts down hundreds of mercenaries searching for fame, solemnly looking forward, wishing for a man who can satisfy him in battle. He thinks of the many demons. None are any good. Then he thinks of Skull Knight. He's really the only one. But then he recalls his fateful battle with Guts, standing up, thinking of perhaps finding him, facing his desire. But then, the White Hawk appears before him.
This is within your dozing, the dusk between dream and consciousness. What you sought were not words, immortal.
Zod agrees. He only seeks the strong, morphing into his apostle state as he leaps at the bird, only to miss and have his horn removed in an instant. He awakens. Was that a dream? Yet the blood flowing from his wounds says otherwise.
When the sky falls at the holy ground, where blind sheep gather and erect a pillar of fire, it will come. The desired will come.
So Zod, this just happens. He's one shot. Probably the single strongest being we've seen in Berserk. Just be blown out the water in one shot. We're cooked. Better yet, that White Hawk is so obviously Griffith that if you even try and deny it, you're not reading Berserk. We're reading completely different things. We have now seen that pretty much every person from every walk of life in the world of Berserk, everyone important, is searching for Griffith. The Holy Iron Chain Knights seek the Hawk of Darkness, which isn't the same as the White Hawk, but it's clearly Griffith, we all know this. The people are having dreams of a White Hawk saving them from a mysterious plague. Then, the King of Midland, the mightiest kingdom in all the lands, is seeing Griffith as his daughter wishes for him to come back. Finally, even demonic apostles like Zod want Griffith to come back. Literally, everyone wants him back, well, maybe except Guts. I also gotta mention, we see Conrad making rats and in turn creating the plague. Meaning this plague that is setting forward this vision and making it seem more realistic is started by the God Hand themselves. This makes me also think of Ubik. Remember how in the eclipse he could make Griffith see his past memories and see himself? Who's to say he's not the one giving people the vision? He probably created that prophecy for the Iron Chain Knights too. The God Hand are orchestrating this whole event from their world, everything points to it. All to say Griffith's return or some sort of rebirth is a given, and the stage is set. If the already seen as heroic Griffith descends from the heavens and stops the plague like this prophecy says, he'll be seen as a god amongst men. Even better, the king is conveniently dead. The throne is literally open for him, and what has he always wanted to have? A kingdom. All to say, we should be scared, yet with this, we now have to ask how. How could Griffith possibly come back to the world if he's now a full-fledged demon god? Even Guts can't escape the strange happenings, as when he finally gets some rest, he views someone being burned at the stake. That person none other than Casca. As the torches are raised, he yells for them to stop before awakening to the strange demon fetus, him and Casca's corrupted child. The thing takes the form of Casca's face, stating danger. When the sky falls at the holy ground, blind sheep will gather to erect a pillar of fire. While trying to justify it as a demon being a demon, he can't help but be wary, panicking as he realizes something really might have happened to Casca. Erica's chopping firewood as a familiar elf bothers her, chasing and catching him before Guts appears, now returned home. Back at the cabin, we see that Rickett is growing up, Guts waltzing in and instantly acquiring about Casca. And as he feared, she's not here. Guts grows angry. What could have happened to her? Erica then apologizes. About a month ago, Casca had reached a breaking point when it came to being confined in the cave, refusing to eat till brought outside. and as she was picking fruit, an activity, something to do, she had disappeared. Guts continues to yell at Ricket for not looking for her, yet Erica screams at him, for good reason too. He left her alone for 2 years and comes back blaming Ricket? Ricket even did look for her, but at least he had the guts to come back in the end. We then learn why Ricket couldn't search much. Goto is old and needs assistance. Nothing crazy, he's just getting old, but he still has to fight to look at the old Dragon Slayer. We're then given one of the most important moments in the series. If Guts hearing Griffith's speech is what knocked him away and sent him in the completely wrong direction, one that didn't define who Guts was at all, then this is the moment that Guts needed all along. Goto looks at his equipment, noticing wear and tear that wouldn't appear for 10 years has already happened in 2. Guts can't stay sane fighting that way. He looks to his face. Guts is even more tense, stating that if Guts didn't hate that much, he couldn't stand up, reading him perfectly. Goto has no idea of what Guts has been through, but if it was enough to fight demonic things non-stop, maybe it's not the right thing to do in the first place. If Guts is worse, he does it for revenge. Goto suggests running away, not only from war, but his hatred. Bred by hatred, vengeance is something you soak and sharpen in blood. You sink the blade called your heart deep into blood to fix nicks called sorrow. The more sharpening of the blade, the more rust. So more sharpening. All that's left in the end are scraps. Guts wonders if he's trying to make him into a blacksmith, but he just wanted to say Guts has some humongous nicks in his heart. Cracks of fear running straight through it. Guts refuses to listen further and even try to understand. Goto is soon to die with nothing left behind to regret. What does he understand about Guts?
No one, no human understands that. They died. No one was left. None of it made any sense. Suddenly, unfairly, like bugs. Without understanding anything, they were all young. They could have done something if they'd lived. But still, in an instant, to me they were irreplaceable.
Goto states he abandoned those irreplaceable things. Guts has always struggled to realize that his precious things were the warmth of the people around him. Like the king and his daughter, the people around Guts are what keeps him going. Goto states that 2 years ago he left those things behind in favor of his malice. He ran away because he couldn't bear to share sorrow with the irreplaceable precious things. Yet again, reading Guts perfectly. Everything the Black Swordsman has been is Guts masking the feelings in his heart. Goto states that he can't talk about revenge for his friends when he had abandoned Casca here. He chose himself, not them, his precious things. Why fight for something he himself abandoned? He is a sword with many nicks, soaked in blood and rusting, one with a huge lethal crack. A sword that's begun to break. All to say, if Guts continues down this path, there's nothing. Erica and Ricket show Guts what they've been doing, creating hundreds of graves for their numerous fallen comrades. Ricket has found a new way to live, unlike Guts. They return to the cave Casca was in, and besides talks of elves, etc., Guts and Ricket apologize to one another before Guts is left alone in the dark. Yes, you heard me right, Guts apologizes. This is crazy for him. This means this return is really hitting him hard, and so, as you expect, he sits there in the darkness, scared because he doesn't have his sword, reflecting. He looks around, his eyes stopping where Casca would sit. She's not there. He reflects on Goto's words before envisioning the eclipse, breaking down as he states he can't run from the last thing seared into his right eye. He can never atone for the dark flame inside of him. All he can do is burn himself and his enemies with it. Guts tries so very hard to tell himself Goto was wrong, that his way of chasing the darkness is correct. The Beast of Darkness then appears, very much a representation of his inner darkness telling him to continue. Yet he looks back. It's not really there. It's by viewing his own darkness he considers that maybe Goto was right. He can't say anything about how he abandoned Casca. Recalling his memories with the band, he realized he had left them on his own. He started and declared this war for himself. He was never forced. It was a choice Guts himself made. Right now he's being burned by a black flame of hatred. But that's not it. The campfire from back then burns as well. He comes to the huge realization that it was this other flame, his desire for his precious things, that kept him from being consumed by the black flame. The only thing that has kept him human are his memories of his lover. While Guts had always told himself he had no choice, he had to immerse himself in darkness to make it all work. Like when he had left the band, there indeed was a choice. He could have continued to burn the flame of his precious things, staying when Casca needed him the most. He didn't have to burn the black flame. Guts comes to the realization that because he had chose the black flame, he might have lost the flame of his precious things. And like before, he was yet again too late to realize. He begins to break down, before recalling what the demonic fetus had shown him.
The flame. It's not yet blown out. Not yet! It's not too late! This time I swear I'll never lose her again.
Ricket works tirelessly into the night as Puck stumbles upon him. He thanks the elf. Since Goto has gotten ill and Casca's went missing, Erica has had a rough time. It's only thanks to Puck she was able to be so lively. Then there's Guts. He was really worried about how Guts would change. And though they did get off on a rough start, Guts was still Guts. He thinks it was due to Puck. Guts is only able to still laugh because Puck is with him. Goto then comes into the room. He'll repair the Dragon Slayer, and as Ricket tries to stop him, he tells him that Erica is now his responsibility. She was an orphan that Goto took in. It made him, who only knew steel, feel human. If a good sword, even when cracked, when returned to the fire it'll be reborn. He tells Ricket to pass on a message to Guts. Don't turn out like me. When Guts had left the Band of the Hawk to search for a dream, it was through Goto he found one. Like Goto had let his life be consumed by smithing, Guts had realized it was okay for his to be about the sword. He had crafted his dream to be to hone his swordsmanship to the highest level. Here Goto reflects on that idea, stating it was through finding his daughter that he felt human, that through another's warmth he realized that smithing wasn't the most important thing. He tells Guts to not turn out like him. Don't spend your life chasing something meaningless like he had. It's with camaraderie that you feel human. He states, if a good sword, when returned to the fire it'll be reborn. He compared Guts to a sword just before, saying if Guts returns to Casca, he'll begin anew, be reborn. In the morning, Guts dons his new gear, ready to set out on his mission to find Casca, but Ricket asks how he plans to even do that, and in response Guts asks about the nearby holy ground. Surprisingly, Ricket has an idea of what he means, a nearby monastery referred to as the Tower of Conviction, explaining that's where refugees from the plague are and tons of heretics. Heretics all soon to be dispatched by a holy see. Basically, a witch trial. And this, yeah, it sounds exactly like Guts' dream. It might be grasping at straws, but he really has nothing else to believe. He says goodbye and listens to Ricket's words about taking care of Casca, also telling Goto he'll count on him once he comes back. Basically, the closest you'll get to a thank you from Guts. As he runs off, Goto states that this is probably their final parting, yet Guts didn't even stop. At least it's better than getting gloomy. Guts will run towards something one way without noticing something else, and nicks himself. All to say that it's beyond our control, living and dying. The huge debate of precious things and dreams ended in the Golden Age with Guts realizing that the precious things, the people around him, were more important than the dream. Though in the end, he had lost it. It was far too late for him to realize that. From there, after the eclipse, all that went out the window with Guts. His number one goal was to kill Griffith, nothing else. In order to cover the pain, Guts had covered his heart in darkness, and Goto here reminds him of that. Even without any details, Goto would realize Guts is on a quest of destruction, one bound to cause him even more pain with time. Him destroying things till he too is destroyed, or breaks like a sword. He simply tells Guts the harsh truth, that he ran out on his precious things. He ran out on everything he held dear, his warmth, for a selfish dark quest. And now Goto has forced Guts into an even more important realization to himself, that he might have lost Casca. Griffith's speech completely changed Guts' life, sending him on the path that would eventually lead to this moment. A very pained moment where everything before has been, in all honesty, terrible. And now Goto gives a very similar speech, one that will go on to yet again define Guts' path in a similar way. Goto reminds Guts that his precious things are more important than everything else, that Casca is the number one thing in his life, that their camaraderie heals him, that he needs it. And as he realizes Goto was right, he realizes that it's not over yet. He can still fight for Casca. I also want to talk about the Beast of Darkness itself. While obviously a creature representing Guts' darkness, his black flame, I've always loved the subtle but clear imagery of the creature. Wolves are very synonymous with dogs. Dogs evolve from them, so it's easy to see a wolf and a dog almost too close, when they're nothing of the sort. It's often people might forget how wild a wolf is because of dogs. Guts is approached by a wolf wanting to be fed, like a dog, but he gives Guts stronger jaws as he feeds him more and more. But you must remember that this isn't a loyal companion like a dog. If Guts accepts this creature, feeds it, and then stops feeding it, it won't whimper like a dog. It's a wolf. The wolf will choose to consume him if Guts isn't feeding it. At the Tower of Conviction, we witness the Holy Iron Chain Knights arrive. Under current talks of politics, Farnese seems on edge, us learning that after failing to keep Guts captive, she was relieved of the mission. While it was high priority before, Guts is no longer really cared for by the Knights. The Hawk of Light dream is now regarded as a miracle taking highest priority, apparently so they can hope to control that power. Regardless, Farnese is much more bothered by Guts himself, unable to get rid of the images of what had occurred and constantly denying herself that it's the truth. It's then a heavy iron carriage approaches, the Inquisitor's wagon, marked by red wheels hoisted above. It's the token of Bloody Scripture Mozgus. Scary name. Allegedly, no less than 500 people have been put to death under him, and even more lost to torture. He's the most famous heretic inquisitor in the world. The carriage is then attacked as we witness firsthand why they're so renowned. A man is struck and grappled by a claw before others are cut down by a huge pair of scissor-like blades. Eyes are removed directly from faces, others crushed by a huge wheel, when finally the leader of the men is taken around the neck by a spiked collar thing, all before Mozgus himself steps out of the carriage.
Gracious, what a noisy affair. The Lord doth revere silence.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this guy might not be as holy as he appears. If it looks uncanny in Berserk, it's definitely more than likely a demon. And uncanny would probably be the last of the words I'd use. This guy literally looks like a sand block from Minecraft. Not to mention, we've already had religious demons using religion for their purposes. Mozgus, all I'm saying is I'm already onto you. I also want to mention that he is an insane resemblance to the Judge from Blood Meridian, and I really do think he's similar to that character in ways you'll later see. Regardless, uncomfortable appearance with the shocking reveal, I don't even need to say Miura is a masterclass in unsettling appearances. Even more so as he goes on to give this good guy act, finding Farnese and telling her to raise her head, as he states it's a blessing none from the Holy See were casualties. He introduces his group as his devoted torturers, folks with wills of iron who are all very useful to him. He asks the comp man why they attacked, it being none other than revenge, explaining how Mozgus called his village a refuge of heretics as an excuse to burn it away. In response, Mozgus states he was following God's doctrine. The man states that all they did was suggest stopping their offerings to the church. Their village was at rock bottom. And as the man uses the word punishment, Mazgis raises a book and smashes his head in. Totally a good guy. They then pass judgment, condemning the accused to death by wheel, smashing their limbs off with the huge metal wheel. Something Farnese gets a very obvious sense of enjoyment from. But in the background, a woman takes one of the prisoners in her arms. A woman named Luca pushing the man away because they'll be killed due to association. As they stare down the quote, heretics, now strung on the carriage wheels, the woman's face is revealed. It's Casca. Guts' dream was right. Stumbling upon a boy being robbed of his food, we watch him trick a bandit into eating poison before introducing himself as Ishidro. He blames the man falling and passing out on the Kushan army attacking, and as the men start to get suspicious, he points to a random spot. Yeah, really lucky guess. They appear and quickly surround the men. While the boy hides, we witness these warriors make quick work of all in the vicinity. Unluckily enough, Ishidro's next. Yet he's then saved as a mysterious dark-cloaked warrior waltzes in. Yup, you know the drill by now. Random character means Guts is soon to show up, destroying the agile warriors in a single strike. Happy to have an excuse to try his sword out. Ishidro watches in shock as Guts is surrounded, and Puck tells him to keep his head down. The men all strike Guts at once, but he simply stabs his blade into the ground and jumps over it, grabbing it to continue his frenzy. He's like a kid with a new toy. Also, Puck is taken to shaking Ishidro down for his food. Nice. Guts quickly moves on, rushing to reach the tower as Ishidro calls Guts awesome and follows, super inspired by him. All this while a familiar face reappears. Salat tells his men to be careful around Guts. He had fought him long ago, but before they fight again, they must search for the land of the Oracle. Yeah, remember, these guys are just watching everything go down from the shadows. With this, our backdrop is finally set and we get a good look at what's really occurring at the Tower of Conviction. At its mound, covered in darkness and swarmed by plague, people live sickly and in fear of heretics, as a priest has been skinned and hung by a tree. We also start to see these eyeball panels when speaking of the tower here and there. Yeah, no idea what these are about, but trust me, they're important. People are starving, dead are carried out by the dozen, and children fight over things like rats for food. The horrors only continue as they ask about a carriage of food. The knight at the front berating them for asking more than their rations. And as they try and take just a bit of food, the knights are unleashed and hunt the people down, all for just being hungry. You just have to take one look at the people too and tell they aren't getting enough. Yet this is because in this holy land, no matter the circumstance, they've laid hand on the temple's offerings. Remember, this land, the Lord, holiness, this is number one and you do not defy a single rule. Very important for the conviction arc. In this moment, it seems like they'll all be put to death. But then Farnese is stopped by a woman's cries. Her child is dying. It needs God's divine protection. Mazgis appears out of nowhere. In the light of her boldness, God shall show mercy. He knows they all need discipline for their acts, but because he happened to be here, it was surely because of God's guidance. Her self-sacrificing pure love shall find reward. Mazgis continues to be very scary. He shows up to save this woman almost as if he was waiting for a moment like this to occur. It really starts to create some questions. Could he be using God as a way for things to make sense? Or does he truly believe himself to be some sort of savior, that he is the one chosen by God? He gets the baby the help it needs. Maybe he's not that cruel. Okay, yes he is. Mazgis is crueler than cruel, most definitely. This is Mazgis' den of sinners, a place where he takes criminals and heretics to be punished. Farnese witnesses some of the torture and flinches, Mazgis appearing over her shoulder and demanding she shall not avert her eyes. To him, this is one big aspect of the Holy See they all belong. God does not rain just benevolence upon the earth. He is also strict. Mazgis is saying he believes in both sides of the coin, that in order to receive God's greatness, You must strictly follow every rule. He then takes the woman who had given up her child and commends her. Her actions were great, but sin is sin, crying as he hopes she'll be able to overcome this trial. With this, she's strapped down nude and we only hear screams. And for once, I can't tell if Farnese is enjoying it or if this is actual shock.
So, Mosgus, do I even have to say him and his group already stand out? Inquisitors were very much a real thing in real life. Maybe not all of them were as brutal as him, a majority of them were probably not as brutal as him. I'm not an expert in history, but they definitely existed. People like him that did what he did definitely did exist. Everything in this arc, besides obviously like the demons, if you believe, I'm not even gonna get into that basket. This arc is very historically accurate. Everything in Berserk is very much inspired by medieval Europe. All to say, I just really wanted to say Mosgus is pretty much the embodiment of this time period in one character. You'll see what I mean as we go on.
I do want to say that I recorded the green screen and real life against the wall scenes before I learned how to better pronounce his name. So for all those scenes and all those type of shots, it is going to be said like that. I apologize, but it would take me another 2 hours to redo it all. I think this is the part that makes this arc very scary. The fact that it is realistic. In the world of Berserk, while inspired by real world events and real places, it's closer to fantasy than everything. But here, this arc is very grounded in real life events, way more so than other arcs. And therefore, I think it makes this arc a lot more uncomfortable when you consider that these are real things that happened. And as I just said, Mosgus is the embodiment of it all.
The reason Mosgus really stands out to the reader is not because he takes it very far. We've seen a lot of characters take things too far. But the real reason is that he does it. He takes it too far in the name of religion. I think most readers can tell Mosgus takes his job very seriously. And while you'd want to assume that he does this for a dark desire, there is never a point that points to Mosgus doing it for any other reason than his holy beliefs. The idea of torturing and putting many to death in the name of religion sounds very wrong, as religions teach good and greatness and being a good person. But that is a direct confliction to everything we see here. It builds up a very uncomfortable feeling, even if by definitions he is just following the word of his scripture. I just gotta say it though, there's something to be said that even Farnese, who up to this point has been shown to be, well, freaky, flinches and can't even look at what he does.
The happenings at the tower continue as we've seen, though we now view a different crowd. Luca is making love with the man revealed to be a soldier, Jerome. Him revealing the notable fact that literally no one likes Farnese. She's faith, duty, and orders without thanks. Worst part, I guess she kinda sucks at her job. While it's a tradition for a woman to lead the knights, they wish she'd just act like it, that her job is just a tradition. This makes it even more clear to us that her faith and role in said faith is really all Farnese has, even if it is a hollow title. It's then a bandaged Casca pops through the tent, ruining the mood and causing Jerome to leave, but not before he gives Luca a gift and promises to take her home one day. She takes the gift and splits it evenly between her and the other prostitutes. With the heretic hunt, it gets harder and harder to survive, and Luca just wants them to all do well. Casca's bandages then come undone, causing Luca to quickly put them back. She does this because of Casca's beauty. She worries that because of it, she'll be taken advantage of. You can tell she very much gets the hint that something is up with her, even noting the brand of sacrifice on Casca's chest. She doesn't know what it means, but she knows that it's probably something important. But everything considered, Luca is a really good person. Also, I want to note they're calling Casca Elaine because they obviously don't know her name. I'm going to be saying Casca for simplicity, but a lot of the pages on screen will refer to Casca as Elaine because they don't know she's Casca. That night, another one of the girls, Nina, goes to the river with Casca. We see more people condemned on the way there, before we learn Nina is slowly getting sicker with something. Terrified, as all they can do in this horrible situation is sit in the shadow of a tower meant to be holy. It's then the brand activates. Nighttime means they come after Casca too, but we get a reason as to why they haven't yet got her. They watch. For some reason they just arise from the ground but don't make effort to attack her. Even the fetus-like demon just stares at her. Weird. It's like when she had given birth on the cliff. In the tower, Farnese listens to her own men talk behind her back. Serpico purposely spills their food for it, all before searching for Mozgus. She finds the twin torturers without their masks and feeding the birds, noting their faces to be disfigured before the plague mask torturer appears behind them. They search for Mozgus together when the torturer reveals a bit about themselves. All of them have been persecuted by their appearances, portrayed as monsters. Yet he himself seemingly has no issues. It's then he puts his hand to the sun, his skin scalding instantly. He can't meet the sun and was driven from his village for this reason, that being when he found Mozgus. He told the group there isn't a single word in scripture that condemns them, rather he believes they must have been granted their forms for a reason. The fact he happened upon them randomly is proof they're needed by God. The torturer then states he doesn't enjoy his work. Perhaps he can only do these monstrous things because he is such. Even then, he at least prides his work. It's a job granted to him by God. This is a scene that shows the torture band isn't as black and white as you might have assumed. The torturers too strongly believe in God, as well as feel a sense of following when it comes to Mozgus. They then find Mozgus slamming himself to the floor? He stands up and falls flat to the hard floor 1,000 times a day, throwing himself down in the prayer to God, not once missing this event in 10 years. Like Serpico says, I understand why he looks like a block now. Mozgus explains the importance of the tower, that a sage was once imprisoned here by a supreme king Gaisric. The sage had continued to proclaim the king's sins to God until angels descended, a miracle by all definitions, and therefore Mozgus assumes the tower's miraculous virtue. Also, if we assume that Skull Knight is the Supreme King Gaisric like we had assumed back in the Golden Age, that would mean this land here was also under him. And since we know Skull Knight has a strong connection to the God Hand, it's very heavily implied that those angels were likely them. That perhaps this is how Skull Knight met them, the God Hand, and began his quest of, well, being Skull Knight. Mozgus explains his duty as enforcing the strict laws of God. It brings pain, yet he feels no guilt. He lives a life of extreme dedication, and his words of prayer are evidence of that. It's then he notices Farnese being troubled. She can't understand how Mozgus's acts save people. It doesn't seem to stop the violence. And if anything, the people grow more and more malicious towards them. Farnese can't help but wonder if this is truly the way to do things. Mozgus tells a story. A woman in poverty had dedicated her entire life to helping others. She would seek out the dying and embrace them, holding their hand like a mother so that they could have peace when God called. She had then found a particular man, grasping him when he had stated he had lived a proud life and didn't want to be disgraced. Mozgus had explained this to say, a person doesn't know what helps. It's in God's hands. Everything that helps is in the scriptures. For God and God alone do they act. He explains everything they shouldn't do as it all exists devoutly for God. That's what faith is about. The conversation ends as they go their separate ways. Mozgus seemingly ready to work and Farnese repeating his words to herself. Serpico also states that somehow his argument was too perfect. And somehow, yeah, I agree. The best way to explain it is that it feels like Mozgus practiced that in the mirror. He's trying harder than he needs to, and normally when someone's trying too hard, well, it means they're trying to cover for something. But I just have to make it clear that no, he's not. This is just who Mozgus is.
There's so much to be said about why Mozgus does what he does, yet it's always following God's scriptures. This throws you off so much. There's no way that it's that simple, that you're just following God's word. Yet it really is. Everything Mozgus does is in the name of God and his dedication to said holiness. As I said earlier, Moscus never gives us a reason to doubt this. Doubt that everything isn't in accordance to the holy scriptures and texts. In a story where creatures do horrible things for complex reasons, for dark, deeply uncomfortable reasons, Moscus's reason being so simple feels just not right. It's almost as uncanny as his appearance. Yet this very feeling he invokes, this very uncomfort, is what makes him so effective and different as a villain. But I must remind you that the central background behind the story idea of this arc is to question religious fundamentalism. The idea that one must strictly follow holy texts and traditions. Moscus very much is the epitome of this idea, but from there, I can't offer him without offering a dilemma. Think on this. Think of a person with the steak knife. It's meant to cut steak, it's in the name. But a person can do other things with the steak knife, like hurt others. Is the steak knife in the wrong for this? No, it cuts steak, it's literally in the name. What's wrong is the person with the steak knife. Ultimately, what matters in this dilemma is the intent of the person with the object, not the object itself. If we apply this to Moscus, he's torturing others according to religious scripture, torturing others for wholly justifiable purposes. His intent is good by all definitions. He never gives us a reason to doubt there's a harsh, evil intent. Yet wouldn't that mean what he's doing is justified? In the idea of religious fundamentalism, what Moscus and the Holy Knights preach, he is by all definitions correct. The horrible torture is perfectly in line with Moscus's system of beliefs. This is how Miura questions the idea of religious fundamentalism. It leads to extremes like torture and killings in the name of religion. And while there's a never clear right or wrong answer provided, Moscus really does a great job at making us question it. As I said earlier, this arc is a spitting example of that idea, that conflict, that question. And therefore, I think it's very effective that your main villain is the spitting image of this question in every single uncomfortable way.
At the bottom of the tower, we watch Nina run away with a man named Joachim, Luca watching and following worried, while Casca also curiously follows, neither of them noticing her. As they nervously move through the lands and canyons, their pair grows to a group, all shaky yet excitedly approaching a cave. Around the fire people danced, engrossed in sin, Nina jumping in glee to join them, as Luca watches them engage in disgusting amounts of lust. She watches the flames as pots burn drugs into the air, the people all under the influence of a plethora of substances having the times of their lives, each one committing acts that, I must remind you, will get them killed. This is heresy. The man with Nina begins to see a woman in the flames, the one they call the goddess of the flame, and one we know is resembling Slan, member of the God Hand, showing that she too is helping the God Hand swindle people around the world. She's the one getting people to commit heresy. Nina brings Joachim to the leader of the den, a huge man with the goat head. She has him recite God-defiling words before kissing his snake. Yup. And as he drinks this strange substance, he spits out a finger. He panics. The shock evaporates the drugs from his system as he can see clearly the pots of liquid have people in them, running away and seen as a traitor as he falls off a cliff seemingly dead. Yeah, what the fuck did we just witness? Nina, now on the come down from the drugs, begins to break down into tears when Luca appears. And while at first Nina appears standoffish, being mean to Luca, she folds when she's slapped and spanked. Luca yet again is clearly a great person, like a mother to the other girls, which explains why she gets really panicked when she learns Casca followed them and has now been found. The men remove her bandages to learn the truth, and as they begin exactly what Luca feared, Casca sees them as demons during the eclipse, screaming louder than ever before. It then signals the demons to attack. The men rip to pieces before the demons disappear just as fast as they came. They literally came just to protect Casca, almost at the command of the fetus demon, her child. Yet as Casca blissfully walks away as if nothing happened, the ominous reoccurring eyes watch everything from the dark.
So now we can clearly understand how Casca has made it up to now. The demon fetus, her and Guts' corrupted child, has been protecting her. This is quite important though, as we can now for sure say the demon fetus not only appears to Guts, but Casca. This is clear confirmation to me that it only appears to its parents. Nothing else has interacted with it, and it only started appearing in the timeline after it was born. Also, the weird eyes keep watching Casca. They too seem to want to look at her and protect her in some way, but I'm only mentioning this to say these are not the same two. Do not get them confused. They're very different, but same goal. They want to protect Casca. Let's just continue on so we can find out why.
As the sun sets, we watch Guts get some sleep as Ishidro just barely catches up to him. He takes to messing with Guts' sword simply because he thinks it's cool. And even though Puck tries to help him, the sword falls on him and he can't move. Guts then awakens. He's not really he just doesn't care. So he picks up his blade and berates him. It's not a kid's toy. And even though Puck suggests so, the boy acting like it's the truth, Ishidro doesn't want to be anyone's apprentice. Guts asks if the boy has ever killed anyone before walking off. He needs to get away. Meaning, yeah, demons are coming. Curiously, these ones take the form of wagon wheels, just like the one on Mazgus' carriage. Guts makes quick work of them, shredding them to pieces while saving Ishidro a few times, all before tossing him away and continuing his quest. No time to stop, well, unless you're Skull Knight. Skull Knight starts off with how interesting it is for Guts to be in the company of an elf. Yet again, apparently Guts and elves have a strong tie. He then confirms that he and Guts are going to the same place, that a strong demon is soon to appear, and while Guts links it to the God Hand, Skull Knight says they're already everywhere. In his words, the God Hand are a large concentration of negative thought. They can appear anywhere, yet because they're just simply a body of thought, they also appear nowhere. But there's an exception, that once every 1,000 years a member of the God Hand is incarnated. Guts should know, the dream of the shining hawk. Every human saw that revelation.
That someone who signifies the hawk is going to appear in this world.
Guts stands speechless as Skull Knight inquires about Casca, realizing she's already at the holy ground, the place and idea that will be called the festival. The God Hand have already begun to guide the people there. They've guided Casca, and now Guts follows. It nearly parallels that other time.
The eclipse. It's an attempt to imitate the eclipse.
Rage bursts inside of Guts, his hand on his lost eye as he envisions the eclipse. Puck sensing nothing but ecstasy. Skull Knight states they cannot stop it. It's like the moon shining on the water. As long as they exist, it will occur. And the fact that they've met here is more proof than anything that they exist in causality. Guts laughs this off. He doesn't care for causality one bit. Zod had told him that he'd die all the way up to the eclipse. Skull Knight too. Yet him and Casca made it out alive. Skull Knight might have helped last time, but this time Guts will save Casca himself. All before he can't even say it out loud, but Puck can tell. It's intense rage, but not just rage. It's a feeling too complex for even him. Skull Knight states that while this time it'll imitate, it won't be the exact same. Even causality can't predict the finer details. Though Guts' brand must mean something, it might even prove to be an aid in that idea, as he no longer exists within the natural world himself. Maybe he's not a shadow on the water, but a fish that breaches the surface of causality.
However, I warn you of one thing. Fight or rescue, your lover will be left alone. It won't be as simple as catching two birds. At the holy ground, where blind sheep gather. See you again.
As Puck realizes Skull Knight felt like an elf, Guts looks to the moon. He'll save Casca. That's his top priority. But if Griffith steps before him, then nothing. Not even he himself knows what he'll do.
Here we're told that a second eclipse is bound to happen, that there is no if, ands, or buts about it. A second eclipse is going to occur. Yet while we know the original eclipse was to grant Griffith a seat in demonic hand heaven, to make him a demonic god, this one is to give him a physical body back on Earth. Demons coming back from the dead, and, well, he wasn't dead, but bringing a demon back, putting him on Earth in like... No, that doesn't sound good. I don't even need to say it. The thing is though, we're basically told here that this is going to happen. We can't stop it, and therefore what is more important is how Guts reacts to it. At this moment, Guts is just coming back from becoming that beast of darkness, pushing himself to choose the flame of his precious things instead. But with Griffith coming back, how will that affect that conflict? What would happen if Griffith literally appeared right in front of him? School Knight makes it clear that he cannot have the black flame and the flame of his precious things at the same time. It's one or the other. He can go after Griffith, but Casca will be lost, and vice versa. While Guts is sure to survive this, we all know that since he's been through one eclipse, he'll make it through another. That's not the question. But what he picks at this second eclipse is what will set the future in stone. This is the very moment, the very arc, we will see if Guts chooses redemption of himself or his dark path of revenge.
It was a howling, but not like the wind. It was the voice of a howling monster beneath the earth. Farnese would cower under her bed, yet even then she was drawn to the window in her room, witnessing a pillar of flame, countless shadows wavering. To her, was some sort of festival. Farnese presently doesn't hesitate to send people to the fire, soldiers commenting on how since she's a child she lived right next to a burning ground. Throwing torches at stakes is normal for her. This is the very reason why she was chosen to hunt the Black Swordsman. She had no hesitation to burn heretics at the stake. And now with Mozgus' words, she won't be troubled as she continues the same task. In the background, Serpico stops a man from pushing a child to throw a torch at his father. Serpico then asks to be excused, apparently a normal happening for stake burnings. Approached by Jerome the Knight, he confirms he can't handle flames. He himself is the same as that young boy. His mother was a heretic burned at the stake 3 years ago before his very eyes, setting up the idea that it was Farnese who ordered her to be burned, which allows understanding as to why he might be close to her, maybe for like revenge, but not as to why he cares for her. There's a lot of questions when it comes to Serpico. In her room, Farnese can't stop looking to the flames, them causing her to remember her childhood. That once she gave into the fear and left her room, throwing a torch into the flames herself, it changed her. When she throws a flame, the shadows dance. She kept casting torches. She states that when you peel back a layer of the world, you find terror. And in order to escape that terror, you need to lead it. She threw the torches in to lead that terror. The shadows dancing not only granted her power over them, but in the eyes of faith, she was a blessing, a promising child of the Lord, so eager to burn heretics as a little girl. Presently, Farnese also enjoys the flames, drowning in pleasure as she envisions the people burning to ash inside. Yeah, she's kinda sick. Yet she tells herself that she's not the one in the wrong. So here we learn Farnese is attracted to fire, burning people to death. Very strange, but considering the backstory and everything we've seen up to now, it makes sense. Children are very impressionable. They take to things easier because their minds are still growing. They don't know anything, so if you put something down, they'll pick it up and accept it as truth. Therefore, Farnese being rewarded and given a reason to keep burning these people, being told that it's a good thing, is bound to result in some strangeness in adulthood. Childhood trauma manifests in tons of ways, and considering how the idea of lust is severely forbidden when it comes to religious situations, it often does appear there. Farnese is an example of that. But now we can see clearer than ever through the cracks that Farnese has nothing but her religion.
She was a religious child praised as a blessing because she simply wanted a way out of her darkness. The power of being praised for doing these holy things led her on the path she is now, a holy knight, pursuing and burning heretics at the stake. It's a path that even if we can see she clearly isn't built for, she believes she is. In reality, it's the only thing she appears to have. Though when Guts appears, this religious image, the only thing she appears to have, shatters. All that's left is the darkness, and just like her childhood self had in that dark room, she fears it. This is to say, there's nothing but darkness if Farnese cannot envision herself in the religion. At the tower, Luca and Nina worry as Casca is now being showered with gifts. You see, since the spirits and demons had rushed to protect her, all the people in the cave who had seen it view her as their witch, their heretic sorceress, and therefore praise her. This is obviously very bad news. The knights will kill her and everyone she knows if found. And even though Nina suggests abandoning her to save themselves, Luca refuses. It's then one of the girls is dragged through the camp by the knights, and as she's whipped, Luca rushes in to save her, berating the knight for sitting up high and judging them, thinking of himself as some sort of angel. It's then the knight is flung from his horse, our favorite black swordsman appearing at the perfect time as always, grabbing the man and demanding to know about a branded woman, Casca, something Luca takes note of. The knights push towards Guts, but it doesn't end well. He cuts them down and comments on the sick joke of a holy ground. Yet he definitely knows Casca's here somewhere. The knights realize that now that Guts isn't injured, they stand no chance. He's a real-life monster. And so they run away as Luca rushes up to Guts to ask about the brand. She notices his own as he freaks out, confirming that they are looking for each other in some way. And so he rushes him to her. On his way, Guts is scared. He's very fearful of the state Casca will be in. Will she be broken? He also worries that he'll be even scarier to her, reflecting on his time as a black swordsman. This time he's going to protect her. Luca also asks Guts what Casca is to him, but he's so lost in thought over Casca that Luca figures it out herself. It's just a really cute scene. Yet Casca isn't where they left her. In the background, we see that Nina was fearful of being persecuted if Casca's a witch. So much so that she was ready to run up and abandon her. But upon seeing the kindness Casca just so innocently gave, she broke down and brought her with her. They're then found by the people from the cave. Ready to retrieve Casca or their heretic sorceress. And as they take both of them, Isidro and Puck begin to shadow them. Even the knights begin to make their move. Not only is Joachim, the guy Nina pushed off the cliff, somehow came back and told them about the cave, but reports of Guts have made their way to Farnese. This shakes her and creates visible fear. When she was just forgetting about the darkness, listening to Mozgus' holy words, Guts reappears yet again to show her reality, something that you'll notice becomes a constant in this arc. Now with all the pieces in play, we head to the cave. We view things through Isidro. Casca in the cave has been crowned as their leader, the Black Witch, and Nina has been appointed as an offering to her. Casca is then to mingle with the goat to be a true member of the family. And yes, this is very wrong. Mingle means, well, you know what it means, and even Isidro can see it. The issue is, Guts won't make it there in time. Isidro has to be the one to do something. As the knife is brought to Nina's chest, he chucks a rock as hard as he can, continuing to knock down the ones trying to climb up to him, saying that it's been hard times for him, but now that Guts has appeared, he can't miss this big chance right in front of him. Oh, and then he thinks of girls. Yeah, you can't forget that, like, he's a teenager. It's then Casca's brand begins to bleed and the smoke transforms into something else. It's happening again. Anytime Casca panics or is close to being harmed in any way, a wave of demons appears. And as Isidro just states, things are a lot worse. They swarm the knights, the people in the cave, and even the goatman tries to run and grab something. But in the darkness, only the ominous eyes stare back. And before we know it, he becomes a full-fledged pseudo-demon. It becomes clear that whatever those eyes are, they can see around the tower and can create pseudo-demons while influencing others.
Now instead of the demons Casca summoned protecting her, they go on the attack as the goat can quote, mingle with Casca. The intention is to adopt Casca into their bizarre cult against her will, and as she's forced to yet again face the eclipse? Yeah, what did I say? Guts is a master at arriving at the perfect time. The goat demon loses his arm and sneak as Guts cleaves a perfect circle around Casca, removing all life as he looks back at her. A moment that has no words but says so much. While I hate every time something like this has to happen to Casca, it does make a lot of sense here. Guts finally has had the chance to save her from something he couldn't before. This won't make Casca any better, it won't remove each of their individual horrible memories, but at least it's a healing moment for Guts. He's here, and now he's proved that he can at least try to keep his most precious thing. Farnese then views Guts for the first time since that day, utterly terrified and demanding him to not get away. She's very shaken up, like she literally almost dies to the weakest demon possible, and Serpico doesn't like this at all. Guts is pushing the mob of demons away, them now all upset that he's taking their beloved queen. Especially the goat, him proved to not be any old demon, more so a pseudo apostle of sorts. Guts knows that it's bound to be a rough battle, and so he does something out of character. He trusts Ishidro to guide and protect Casca for him. I think this says a lot. Since losing the Band of the Hawk, Guts has made it a point to push everyone away. So much so that he told a little girl to die instead of comforting her in the Black Swordsman. He was so beyond fearful of losing anyone else and the sorrow that would come with it. Yet since facing his darkness and choosing to pursue the flame of his precious things, we've seen him be accepting of people again. Here, it seems that just like in the band, he has gotten his own group. Guts has finally opened his mind up to the idea, and it all begins with trust, allowing Ishidro to take on this huge task and trusting him to do so. Now ready to go all out and clear the cavern, Guts declares he won't leave Casca in a hellhole like this. He's taken her with him this time. The goat jumps at him as he tries out his new crossbow, shooting at it as it hops around the room. Eventually, the beast charges him, Guts seeing fit to try another new tool. He throws a tiny explosive in front of him, blowing the beast's face up before he cuts the head off, standing in the gore as he looks down at the explosive. They're pretty cool, and I have to agree. Guts scales the cliffs outside when he runs into Serpico, and this time it's clear he's not gonna just chat. He's very upset about how Guts has impacted Farnese. Guts shoots an explosive at him, yet from the smoke his blade just barely misses Guts. He pushes on, keeping Guts on the defense with the intent to keep him away from his sword, revealing he waited to fight him here because he knew Guts couldn't use the sword with such little space. This shows that Serpico, despite his goofy moments and quiet, almost protective persona, is a lot scarier than we could have imagined. He knows that the sun is in Guts' eyes, the rocks are unstable, Guts is carrying heavy equipment, and his only good non-metallic hand is against the wall. Yet it's not just strategy he's good for. Guts can tell he's very skilled with the blade. He can't read him. Despite it all, Guts has a clear mission. Nothing is setting him back. He catches the blade, and while Serpico is certain he can pull back and destroy Guts' hand, Guts just shatters the sword. It's then in an instant he drops from the cliff, grabs one of Guts' explosives, and throws it before disappearing. In the heat of the moment he dodged, pickpocketed Guts, used the weapon he'd seen once correctly, before disappearing. I don't even need to say that that's a bit scary, and it's all because Guts made Farnese upset. In the background, Ishidro has been guiding everyone down the cliff, and while he works on bringing Casca down, that weird eye thing directs Yoichim, the boy that snitched on Nina, right towards her. Upon seeing her face, he screams and runs back to the knights, leading them to her, causing Casca and her to be caught. But not before Farnese makes the big realization that Casca is important to Guts. Ishidro then has to run back to Guts and reveal what occurred, and obviously he's very upset, but lets him down and decides to follow the knights now carrying her. But as they rush in, we gotta talk about those eyes. For the first time here, It speaks. There's no way for a man to change the course of this festival. We already subsist within the current of causality. And now, we can clearly see that it's some sort of egg. This thing can create demons, has been very focused on messing with Casca, and has now lured her into the clutches of the church. I dare say he's a vital part of making this second eclipse happen. In the tower, Puck searches for Casca, noting how everyone can see him despite it being apparently a holy place. It just all has a weird feeling. Those apostle monsters, and now there's something else. In a cell, Casca and Nina are held as the former begins to freak out, pushing Casca away as she blames her for all the bad. She quickly regrets this, saying it was a lie, but this is instantly tested when the torturers open the door and take Casca, her saying nothing in response. The torturer then turns around and changes his mind, because she said nothing, she'll go first, leading Nina to break down as she's walked to the torture room. She only thinks of herself. It's disgusting. She knows that she can tell them the witch is Casca and hopefully walk away, yet that'll be only thinking of herself. She remembers Luca's words, that if she loses her nerve, she'll end up like those she looks down upon, and so she decides she'll finally have a little bit of courage. They open the doors to the torture chamber, a sight so wicked Nina basically shuts down, it all fading to black as we witness Farnese ordered to return home from the tower. This order comes directly from her father, him wishing to not see a woman in this gruesome place. And though she wants to oppose, a ton of the army's aid comes from her family. It wouldn't look good for her to struggle. Walking out of the room, Farnese slaps Serpico, stating that he snitched on her to her father. He heavily denies it, yet she's not so sure, reminding him that she's his master, the one he's sworn his sword to. She looks away and asks if he hates her, yet this conversation is dropped as they cross paths with Nina. She had given up Casca before they even removed a fingernail. After like the 10 pages of conflict too. It's then Mozgus appears, complimenting Farnese and asking about the black swordsman, wondering what could make him show up here of all places. It's then the torturers bring Casca before them. The reason why is right in front of their faces. They put it all together. Guts was trying to rescue Casca, one they regard as a heretic sorceress. He towers over Casca, ripping open her shirt to reveal the brand.
Surely the mark of a witch.
The chamber's doors open. Casca shoved inside as the claws pierce her skin, blood drawn as the doors are slammed shut. Yet it's not just the spikes. Her brand begins to bleed. The chamber explodes into darkness, the room erupting as the black mass of spirits emerge from Casca, holding onto her as they grow more and more to consume everything. In an instant, the torture chamber becomes covered with the darkness, the spirits devouring people whole as panic arises and the torturers begin to fight back. Even the aloof Casca is in fear, sensing something inherently wrong with it all as she reaches for Puck. Yet she too is then swallowed. Guts' brand begins to bleed as he climbs the tower. Him too sensing something beyond wrong, saying this feeling is even weirder than an apostle. Thanks to Luca, Guts slips in and quickly finds Farnese, threatening her before learning Casca's in the torture chamber. But she doesn't even tell him where that is. Seeing Guts' face, she begins to break down, him representing everything she tries to deny. But he just breaks the wall behind her. She needs to show him where it is. He's about to break. Yeah, Guts is breaking down. He's scared shitless he'll lose Casca again. They move as Nina's broken out by Luca, her helped by Jerome the Knight, him ready to risk everything to help her. They ask Nina where Casca is, and before she can catch up to her negative thoughts, they too are faced with the dark sludge of souls. Guts himself has found the torture chamber, but nothing but destruction and death is left. Oh, and Puck. He gives Guts the whole story, but strangely, while Casca was swallowed, her presence is just as alive as always, meaning that everyone else died, but she for some reason is living. As they run in another direction, something weird happens. Farnese realizes she can now see Puck. meaning her mind has now begun to accept the idea of otherworldly things. Yeah, funny it continues to happen as she's around Guts. Yet despite everything going to shit, it only gets worse. Mozgus and his torturers face off against the Soul Sludge, him seeing these events as a test of faith. They shall not call for help, instead give it their all. He'll gladly devote himself to this trial, and as he chants, the weird egg watches his every move. This was the exact moment that whatever this thing is was waiting for. As the door is broken down, tendrils come from above and strike them all, and before we know it, Mozgus is breathing fire down the castle, releasing Casca and the demonic fetus she was harboring straight into his arms.
I have witnessed a miracle. Oh, this is what the Lord intends. To use this power to guide the people.
All of Casca's friends demand her back from the now pseudo-apostle Mozgus, but it certainly won't happen. To him, Casca is the witch spreading evil throughout this land. Removing her signifies a victory for God. Securing this very victory is his mission, and since they stand in his way, they serve as the Lord's enemies. His torturers, now disfigured and changed by the weird egg, use their enhanced strength to easily pull the tower apart, sending flaming debris towards everyone and knocking Luca out of the tower, forcing everyone to hold on to her as she dangles off the edge. The egg watches his plan come to fruition as Skull Knight seemingly stalks him, sneaking upon the egg ready to strike before it jumps. All at the same time, Luca lets go, hoping for some sort of miracle. Skull Knight in the right place, catching her on the way down. It's so lucky I can't even blame her for thinking she's died. Saved by a skull man? Yeah. And as she reveals a very shaky plan to live, it's revealed she's not actually dead, just in a burial ground. Yeah, it would throw me through a loop too. Saved from certain death by a dead horseman in a place of death. Very ironic. Skull Knight stands up to fully face the silhouette of the egg far off in front of them, leaving Luca to question what the hell is happening. All of a sudden, everything went from 0 to 100. Their horrible days went to the worst outcome in a single night. And now here on holy ground, everything seems far from heavenly. In her words, it's like the real world has begun to crack, starting right here. The thing jumps at Skull Knight, and after being hit, it shifts towards Luca, taking her as Skull Knight notes the thing's form. Luca wakes up in front of a bizarre idol and questions what it could be, the thing answering her right away. A Defiant image, one made of priests. She can only ask, "Who are you?" The thing simply replying, "Nobody," never having been anyone and buried in oblivion. His earliest memory is at the base of the tower, eating whatever he could find without ever being told what he was. One day, he found a Bailet, yet could only speak of the dark tower, a cold tower covering the land in shadow. Even when he tried to find other humans, they treated him like a monster. He ran away, digging a small hole, a hole that only got deeper with time. And so under the dark shadow of the tower, they fell deeper and deeper unknown. But one day, a corpse fell, then another, then even more. His hole, his home, had become a grave. He was crushed and no one ever knew about it. And as he was dying, he met them, the 5 angels, the God Hand. Upon being crushed, he had an epiphany. All of a sudden, he understood it all. Words, form, and feelings. But him, being buried as a nobody fading away, he cried out. The angels accepted his wish. He had exchanged the world around him to hatch the perfect world. The creature's form is now revealed to be some sort of humanoid Bailet, or as he calls himself, an egg. The egg of the perfect world. Everything we've seen the egg has long watched. The countless dead, their fearful trying to live, and others joining the strange festival cults. He could only see that the world was ugly. His garden was buried by the debris of that ugly world. Finally responding and trying to make sense of it all, Luca asks if he's planning to take revenge on everyone nearby. In response, the egg begins reiterating Luca and Nina's relationship. that despite Nina's series of hardships and how hard she took them, she had Luca to rely on. Their relationship was like a person clinging to a torch in night, yet the torch didn't offer just warmth. It revealed a wound inflamed but hidden by darkness. Yet because Luca was the torch, Nina could never let go. All they do is follow the torch with their self now fully illuminated. Basically, the best in one reveals the worst in another. The people try to protect themselves by depending on a torch while hating it. When it comes to the world and the egg, he too cannot escape from that light while hating it. There is but one thing all the people stuck truly desire. It is the one missing piece between the old world and the new. Namely, God. We never hear the egg state this, but that's the only word that fits. God. He explains that Luca had seen and aided in what many would consider miracles. The goat person becoming a beast, the torturer sprouting wings, even Luca unintentionally guiding the witch to the right place. It's a perfect fit. It all writes as the guidance of a greater will. The egg states that soon God will appear. That God will appear in exchange for the world, his existence. Luca begins to grow uneasy, and like a savior, School Knight crushes through the ceiling to try and kill the egg. Yet like before, he misses. The egg quickly disappears, revealing he just wanted anyone at all to hear his story. School Knight questions that the egg was not yet meant to die, and as the ground rumbles, he eats another baylet? Yeah, why is that a thing? Before he saves Luca, rising to the surface to view a horror they never expected. A mass of souls large enough to consume the entire tower. So, the real world has begun to crack here. Yeah, that means exactly what we think. The other world, where all the demons are and stuff, and our world, where we humans are, have started to merge, meaning the events of that second eclipse are beginning. An egg is at the center of this event. This egg. Yup. Egg. The constant peering eyes over Casca, the tower, everything, it's had its hands in everything looking at it. Yeah, it's been this thing scurrying around and just doing stuff. In the eclipse, we learned about different types of baylets, and while they hatch to all be the same, demons, this one has a different purpose. Like we've seen with Griffith, he held the one of the king. It was fitting for someone who was going to become a god hand, and Griffith became a god hand. And it would seem that this egg found the one to birth the perfect world. Meaning that this thing has a baylet the god hand created for this specific purpose. He plays a very important role. Apostles have to offer up something to become a demon. Normally it's family, a group of people who follow you, etc. But this egg, he didn't have shit. So he just offered up the world. In return, making him the perfect one to hatch their plan to birth the new world. There's also something to be said about how the same one said to hatch the new world can make pseudo-apostles, make like fake demons. You know, that might say something about the world they're trying to create. Eggs hatch, we know Griff is coming back, and all of a sudden we're speaking about how the world needs a god. You getting what I'm throwing down? Yeah, this egg's goal is to rebirth Griffith as a god. As I've said before, it's like his return has been perfectly crafted. Conrad making the plague, Ubik granting the visions, and we're seeing that even Salon is fanning the flames. Void is probably the one who hatched this plan. Making it so the White Hawk, when it comes down, is literally going to be a god descending onto Earth. The egg is exactly how God is going to be born. The God Hand's perfect world where Griffith is seen as its god. That's not scary to think about at all, is it? Back in the tower, Guts saves everyone as the torturers continue to fire debris their way, slashing them in half before going straight for a kill shot on Mozgus, yet failing as he sprouts wings. By all means, the definition of holy is he states he won't release Casca in the name of God's righteousness. Just what the hell is even happening anymore? Even worse, all of his torturers do the same. Buffed up and now equipped with wings, ready to fly straight at Guts. 7 super strong enemies he'll have to deal with. Faced with the image, he can only look forward at what he deems pseudo-apostles. growing increasingly angry at how fraudulent this all feels. They take their chance at a sneak attack, but Guts counters and cleaves his arm off, pushing away another one that was behind him before catching torture equipment in his mouth. I swear, Guts just has a thing for catching deadly weapons in the weirdest ways. He headbutts him as he delivers a deadly blow, all before an even bigger torturer pushes through the wall with wheel in hand. He approaches quickly as Guts realizes he can't avoid it and is forced to take the blow head on, slamming him straight through the wall and right in front of Farnese. Literally, she can't avoid him. From the dust, the torturers stand back up, Guts' attacks making them stronger if anything, forcing him to realize he's just another step away from Casca. He has no choice but to continue the battle though, but more than ever the torturers are coordinated as they launch a spree of attacks that send him further back. Guts continues to be quick thinking, avoiding their following rush while severing legs, shooting out eyes, and cutting them in half, leaving everyone to watch and sit in awe. He's somehow fighting back against these creatures. Nina, being, scared of everything, is taking it especially hard, but Farnese even harder, speechless and unable to move at the sight of Mosgus' form, yet again stating that when Guts appears, her world comes to ruin. And while she herself states Guts is absolutely dreadful, she can't tell herself that he is wrong. It's like she knows deep down that he is the truth. Farnese, while unable to comprehend it out of sheer shock, realizes that Guts breaks her world in half, that he shows her the truth of the world that she thought she knew. In this moment, Mosgus' form shocks her, because through Guts she realized that's actually a demonic form, not an angelic one. Farnese was also able to see and comprehend Puck, proving that her mind has now been open to these ideas. Her consciousness can't justify them not existing as fact. Everything now in front of her, Guts fighting against the idea of holiness, an angel, while her unable to deny the world Guts showed her, breaks her. Her world crumbles, only thinking of herself as a child. Threatened by the dark night, her cloak of faith is burned away and illuminated. With this, Mosgus himself readies to fight, yet the Plague Mask torturer stops him. Mosgus must accomplish his own holy task. Mosgus begins to take flight as Guts is stalked by the Plague Mask, him using bird-like feet to grasp Guts' head, and even though he struggles, he can only focus on Casca now flying further and further from his grasp. The torturer commends him to death, slamming the wheel at him, throwing him to the wall before yet again slamming the wheel at him. They ready for a third time, yet Guts isn't gonna let you get away with doing it 3 times. He readies his arm, drops the hand, and fires, sending a shot straight through the big torturer, before the chain they had attached to him pulls him back and allows him to cut the others in 2. Very lucky. As he stands up, another charges. He detonates explosives and spears the torturer to face the final one, the Plague Mask. The bird-like demon thanks the Lord that in the final moments of their burdened, grotesque lives, they could be used for such a miracle as this. He sends his feathers at Guts as he tries to collar him, yet Guts slashes the collar in the torturer, quickly killing him as he thanks the Lord even more for the miracle they met Mosgus. He went down pretty easily, but you gotta admire that he was dedicated to his faith and even more to Mosgus. It's another thing that shows that in their worldview and to the people they represent, the religion they represent, these people, the torturers, are technically doing a right thing. It's right by their definitions, the definitions they follow. With the battle over, Farnese shakily approaches Guts, yet before she can ask anything, the building rumbles. While Guts has just finished the harsh battle, it's only just begun. Skull Knight and Luca only watch as the mound of souls grow and grow, Skull Knight explaining it as the essence of malice resonating with the one in the tower. And with it growing this much, Skull Knight realizes that it's time. At the bottom of the tower, the mask begins to swallow knights as it seeks out to eat everything in sight. The tower slowly falling as Serpico just barely saves Farnese. Finally, we watch Mosgus. Also, Ishidro and Puck somehow found themselves on his head. Yeah, what? How? But they look back at the fallen tower, and oh no. The tower has fallen to perfectly represent the God Hand. This is very bad. It's it's the same as the eclipse. Even the panels themselves take the same exact angles to really hammer in this dreadful feeling. It's a really great moment, as despite it being a repeat of what is easily Berserk's biggest event, it's just as scary. We've had this great buildup that's kept in mind we know what the eclipse is, and therefore, because we know, its use is an advantage. Knowing we vividly remember, Miura took the most unsettling, recognizable panels and remixed them just enough to remind us of the horror that was there, shocking us while removing all doubts. He doesn't need to tell us that the eclipse is happening again, because these panels tell us all there needs to know. It really is happening again. I just gotta point out how remarkable it is to build up the same exact event, the biggest event in your series, and have it pay off as well as this, not once, but twice. There's a reason that Berserk's praised so highly, that's all I'm gonna say. Down at the bottom of the tower, the people have begun to get possessed, lighting fires while killing many to further fuel this eclipse. Guts looks down at the chaos, the flames erecting a perfect brand of sacrifice. Him at the peak of it, it reads as a personal message to Guts. The horrors are happening all over again as he stands in the palm of the God Hand. At the bottom, Mozgus appears before the flames and delivers Casca, their witch. He is literally an angel from God to them, and he himself believes it. As they stand shocked, he declares that their faith delivered a miracle to smite evil. He shows off his form. It's a manifestation of God's power. Wings which he'll use to sweep away the wickedness. All the people begin to pray as Guts watches in terror.
We shall now burn this witch, the ringleader of the heresy running amok in this holy place, at the stake. We shall put an end to these abominable monstrosities.
Yeah, yet again I want to remind you of the dilemma Mozgus exists inside of. Mozgus has now been granted angelic wings. By all definitions, making the side of religious fundamentalism he represents correct. In his eyes, and as you'll see everyone else's eyes, he has been rewarded with angelic wings for strictly following scripture. This is where it becomes clear Guts and his group are the opposing to that idea, that you shouldn't follow religion this strictly in the same way Mozgus does. Each side is justifiably correct. It's very much up to personal opinion, and it's just based on beliefs, where you grew up and what you were born into. And I love how Miura has presented this.
Him and his torturers push back the black mass, erecting a pillar to which Casca is pushed towards intended to be executed. Guts panics as he's forced to watch, but in his surprise, the mass of souls behind him are allowed to take shape. The bodies of the torturers are molded to a form he knows all too well. The 4 angels. He instantly strikes, yet they just fall apart. Recalling Skull Knight's words, this is nothing more than a shadow cast upon the earth. He also realizes that his brand isn't in much pain, meaning they can't be real. But then he panics. If they aren't real, that means Griffith isn't here. Could it be that he's somewhere else? He recalls Skull Knight's words about choosing to fight Griffith or rescue Casca, and as he looks down at Casca, he moves fiercer than ever before.
The same. The same as that time. With the same outcome? Again. I can't save her?
Skull Knight realizes he needs to head towards the tower and informs Luca to stay away. But she can't do that. She doesn't think she'll be able to do much, but she has to try. She has to. She heavily reminds Skull Knight of Ricket during the eclipse, running to an unknown danger without a care for herself, only others. Skull Knight commends her, yet he states he can no longer help as everything moves as it did before, meaning as Ricket had appeared to him before, so does Zod. There's no way for a man to change the course of this festival. The egg climbs the tower as he looks down at Mozgus. Maybe if he had met him, things would be different. Would he have been somebody because of him? Ultimately, to the egg, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because he didn't meet him. There is no what ifs. His life was created for the purpose of looking down at others, and as he faces the end, he notices something. He finds Guts and Casca's child that had been corrupted by Femto, the baby that had been constantly appearing when Casca faced danger. He deems the demon baby the same as him, eating it as he declares they'll die together. The baby can now dream in the cradle of the new world, the demon resembling none other than Griffith becoming Femto inside of him.
It is never stated that Griffith did the thing during the eclipse to Casca to be reborn. Matter of fact, it's believed, and I agree with this heavily, that nobody even knew Casca was pregnant, and above all that the child that she was pregnant with would get corrupted. Though we can now see through that accidental event, Griffith is going to use it to come back. The God Hand have aligned everything for this chance of opportunity. This very much falls into the idea of causality, by the way. You know, the idea that they can see a river, and they can see where the river goes, but they can't see the fish that jump out of the river. Meaning, the thing with Casca was a fish, and now they can see the direction of where that the fish is in is going to, so yeah. But this tells us a few things. First, that means Casca and Guts are the main reason why Griffith can come back, which thankfully they don't know because I imagine that would feel horrible. Though it also brings up an interesting question. That demonic baby fetus thing is clearly linked to Guts and Casca. How is that going to work with it becoming Griffith? We can also obviously fully understand the egg. Eggs hatch, the egg is going to hatch the baby thing into Griffith. It's going to hatch Griffith into the new world, bringing him forward as a form of God. Bringing the new world with the arrival of God. That's what his role was for this moment, eating the baby so God can be made. All that's left is to sacrifice everything so Griffith can grow into a human body, God thing. So yeah, a lot of power is needed for that, and so we're about to see how they get that power.
The flames are lit and the fire burns as Casca is reminded of the eclipse. Guts fighting harder than ever against the sea of black sludge to reach her. Yet in the background, Ishidro's gotten ready to save her and make up for before. Standing on a makeshift shot put, he launches himself into the flames and grabs Casca, pulling her away and saving her life as Mosgus has a meltdown. He launches himself at them as they fall to the floor. Before, from above, Guts breaks through and jumps from the sky to pierce Mosgus, intending to be the fish leaping from water and the one that sees Casca no matter the odds. From the flames, Guts stands, onlookers viewing the scene as a black demon defeating the angel. But Guts is more concerned as he caught a glimpse of the egg, thinking that for a moment he saw Griffith inside. He looks up distracted as the angels make another move for Casca. Thankfully, Ishidro refuses to fail Guts again. Yet all isn't over as Mosgus stands up and slams Guts away. He no longer resembles an angel, now covered with hard plates to protect him from anything. And while he chants punishment in the name of heaven, Farnese can't view the form as anything other than bestial. He reveals his scriptures. Faith has shielded him from Guts' demonic power, him seeing this as another reason to continue on and that this is his sworn duty. All to say he might really be getting some kind of holy buff. I mean, his luck is getting way too good. How else do you explain the Bible shielding him? The fight begins as he cries blood for his fallen torturers, declaring he'll tear Guts to pieces as a tribute to their memory. Guts swings his sword at his neck, yet it literally bounces off. He's even stronger than an apostle, and if like his allies he gets stronger with more pain, Guts is gonna have a real problem. The remaining torturers descend as Mosgus' wings extend and force a barrage of blows on Guts, before he bellows out a barrage of fire. Guts just barely blocking the fire as it's pushed in the direction of one of his torturers. Nice friendly fire, holy man. He begins to yell as Guts demands he quit pushing God on him, slamming his sword between Mosgus' teeth as he intends to see if the inside is as hard as the outside. And it is. Guts pushes him to the ledge with no success. Mosgus spouting on about how he'll never stop armor blessed by God as he bites down. Guts delivering knives to his eyes to stop him from breaking his Dragon Slayer. In the background, we watch the remaining torturers go after Nina. her having wallowed away from the group in fear of pain and thoughts of self-preservation. They throw her down to the surface as the remaining plan for a way to beat the torturers. The result being Puck flashbanging them as Ishijiro throws rocks to stun them, bringing them to the ground so Jerome the Knight can finish the job. This means Mozgus is the last one standing, him bellowing in pain and words of God as he grows increasingly angry. But Guts is over it. God this, God that. No matter what, he won't touch Casca ever again. The fight continues as the sea of black souls approaching the people chanting for Mozgus. And even though Guts is fired up, he still can't figure Mozgus out. His sword continues to bounce off as he braves the constant barrage of blows, him stuck bleeding out as Mozgus goes on. Can Guts not hear their chants? They await God's victory. Does Guts not care that tens of thousands will die in exchange for Casca? And while this sounds out of nowhere, Puck reminds us of the brand, that having both him and Casca in a malice-filled place like this will bring forth an unholy amount of monsters. Mozgus is technically right here. If they were both to die, Guts and Casca, the demon sea would likely disperse. Their brand is like a lighthouse. Yet again, it makes him right. He's technically not wrong. If they kill the witch, Casca, removing her and her brand, and her protector, Guts, also removing him and his brand, well, the demons will go away, they'll be saved. Of course though, Guts won't stand for this. He shakily arises as he yet again mocks the idea of God.
All they do is pray. Every last one of them. When the fire's under their own ass, all any of them do is bow down. Tens of thousands of people shouldn't cling to just one woman.
Mozgus explodes in rage, demanding Guts repent while charging. Yet as he dashes forward, Guts takes note of how the first attack on Mozgus never fully healed. Submitted to a series of heavy hits and huge slam to the ground, Guts falls. Everyone watching in horror as Mozgus declares victory, stating he'll burn Guts to ash. Miracles shall never occur for an unbeliever like him. Guts simply laughs. Instead of waiting for a miracle, he should worry for himself. Faith might be his armor, but it's where he's most vulnerable. Guts had used his emotional state to drop his arm and plant explosives in the open wound. With the explosion, Guts wastes no time cutting through the exposed hole in the armor, delivering a series of blows as he screams at God to leave him the hell alone. Finally, he sends the sword through Mozgus' neck, effectively killing him. But he intends to leave Guts as one final gift towards God. Mozgus summons all of his holy flames as he grasps Guts' sword, intending to kill him alongside himself. But Guts states he'll pass, throwing him over his shoulder and off the tower, the angelic Mozgus falling with a blaze of glory in front of the people, covering the land in angelic feathers. What an interesting way to go out for a quote, angel.
I think there's something to be said that how despite everything pointed towards it, Mozgus was never even an apostle. Even with that monstrous gross form he took at the end, he was technically still human at his core. That is to say one big thing, the goal was to never label Mozgus as a monster. Since the beginning of this arc, there's been three big things. First is Guts' quest to realize what's important to him. Is he going to chase the black flame or the flame of his precious things? Second is the big return of Griffith. We've been told by Skull Knight that it's basically fated to happen. We know it's going to happen. And third is the big question of religious fundamentalism. This is the thing outside of the story that Miura wants us to question alongside him. As I've established, Mozgus' beliefs and actions are a direct question of this idea, while Guts himself has been against this idea. It's very apt to say that Mozgus believes religion should be followed very strictly and above all else in one's life, while Guts and his journey say that the ones around you are the utmost precious thing, that they need to be considered before you even accept something like religion. The thing is, if Mozgus is labeled as a monster, it makes Guts absolutely right. and the question would be very invalid if Guts is easily correct. And in turn, invalidating a lot of the progression we're meant to see in Guts. I really like the moment before their final big clash where Moscus simply asks, that one woman or the 1,000 people? It's a serious question that should have an obvious answer. But Guts simply says, the one person, screw the thousands.
Moscus being on the side of religious fundamentalism and Guts not really believing in religion is a clash of ideals, a clash of opinions. Each one of them explore one side of the coin, and ultimately what you think is up to you.
This here is what the arc revolves around. It was never to outright say religious fundamentalism is bad. And to correlate, Moscus is never an outright villain, even though his actions are a bit outlandish. If it was revealed that Moscus was an apostle, it would be like every other apostle in Berserk, that no matter what, they aren't forgivable. The means never meet the end. An apostle is always a demon and always had to sacrifice something to be a demon. Moscus goes out as a good guy in his eyes and his followers' eyes by all means, while Guts wins and proves the importance of the precious things around him. This arc has always been a question about that idea of religious fundamentalism, and while obviously Guts is going to win the clash of ideals because it's what's going to push the story along, he's the main character, Moscus did die in a way that reflected his character perfectly. We never get an answer because we weren't meant to, but the identity, actions, and even the death of Moscus were all about the idea of religious fundamentalism and questioning it. And that is what makes Moscus such a good villain, the question that comes along with his existence.
Moscus's death. The angel's death signals the end for all praising him. The sea of dark souls catches up and consumes the crowd, eating away, leaving nothing in its wake. The sight causes Casca to break down as Guts holds her. A big moment, as unlike all the other times, he's here now, and he won't let go this time for nothing. The egg watches his desired chaos unfold. The world will vanish, everything, including himself. Can the demon baby hear it? The child has now taken the form of a small human baby as it grows in the darkness. People rush into the towers searching for any kind of refuge, trampling Nina before Luca saves her. The girl putting her into a barrel and telling her to not move no matter what. Nina is beyond terrified as you would expect for her, and so finally Luca states how it is. Nina is a coward, and if that's what she is, she needs to show Luca what being scared is really like. She covers the barrel as Luca tells Nina she needs to be the most stubborn survivor. Yet again making Luca like the Ricket of this arc. She is just such a big heart constantly regardless of the situation. Funny enough, Moscus's body is more useful dead than alive. It tells the group stranded on the tower that the spirits don't go near the fire, and so Guts demands they all pick up torches. While they all suggest things, Guts' words turn into a lecture. He knows spirits in and out. This right here with the torches is their best bet. They'll all survive. Farnese sits there shocked at how normal this is to Guts. This is a hopeless place, one where people can only cling to things. How can Guts sit and teach them survival so easily and be so reassuring about it? But unlike before, she doesn't really doubt Guts. She knows and has started to accept that he is the truth. Her heart has started to crumble away that mental block. She thinks on the day as a child. She worries she'd been wandering the night. But all along she forgot this was a world where the sun rises. With Guts in front of her, a way out has been cut open. Together they braved the onslaught with fire, leaving Guts to take on the bigger threats. Farnese drops her torch, Guts demanding she get to work, her watching him stand without fear against this nightmare. He himself is the only thing certain in her mind. She mutters about the Lord, Guts yelling, "Don't pray." If she puts her hands to pray, she can't hold the torch. They must all work together to survive. In this moment there is no Lord, no miracles, no savior. It's them against this very real despair. The tower is consumed as the weight of darkness is felt by all. Nothing but the souls in the shape of the God Hand visible. Their shadows at the top. Puck can sense it all. A whirlwind of dead and alive emotions, millions of souls all crying out for the desire for one thing. The egg looks forward. His entire world is now one singular thought, their desire the same as his. The world he brings forth will be fulfilled by a single voice. Guts and Casca fall as their brands become heavier and heavier. The egg waits, and Puck realizes what they've been waiting for. God. In the palm of the hand, one light appears. A baby now grown into Griffith, the White Hawk. The egg hatches and all the souls die. All sacrificed as the world turns upside down.
When the sky falls at the holy ground, where blind sheep gather and erect a pillar of fire, it will come.
In an instant, everything crumbles. The tower is gone, finally allowing the sun to shine through. Guts gives Casca his cloak. He saved her. It wasn't a repeat of last time. Farnese and Serpico watch on. Ishidro, Jerome, and Puck find Nina. She had lived despite her fear, and all of them look for Luca just to find her hiding in a well. Everyone braved and survived the despair. The Kushan appear from the dust, speaking of Guts as if he could be the one. Their oracle knew something would happen here, and whoever appears, they need to capture. They attack Guts and his group, intending to take the women hostage. Yet even the Iron Chain Knights won't allow for this right now. It's not the time. It's then Zod crashes through, roaring as he runs off to reveal Skull Knight behind him. The ghostly warrior is silent, simply pointing to a far-off direction. A flash of pure white illuminates the land, a single white hawk lowering from the sky to cover the land with feathers. None other than Griffith emerging from the light.
At that moment, all who were there forgot to breathe.
Griffith?
Zod dashes before the angel born before them, bowing in allegiance.
And they sensed intuitively that the one they desired had come.
The dark flame begins to consume and gnaw at Guts, yet fades as he listens to Casca's cries. The darkness all but disappearing as he turns to her. Zod begins to wipe out the cushion, trying to take Griffith as everyone stares at the angel before him. Even Guts and Casca can't turn away. He really has come back for his kingdom. Everyone else leaves as the entirety of the Kushan army marches through the lands. Everyone looking up to watch Griffith and Zod fly far away. Farnese, viewing the prophecy she's been following come to life, can only say it's something not human. A line defining how much she's changed. Remember, when we first met Farnese, she wouldn't have even thought demons existed. And now, literal God has appeared before her, and it's a demon. I also gotta point out that Griffith coming back, being labeled as God, and him being the object of the Holy Sea's prophecy, of Mozgus's group's prophecy, means they were right in following God's scriptures. They were helping God come back in some weird way. It's a very interesting way to say that religion isn't a bad thing. Religion can technically be right. It's just that because the plot of Berserk revolves around demons, knowing that Griffith is a demon, of course they have to give us the realization that God is a demon. For the story, it makes sense for it to be that way, but I love that Miura never outright was like, religion is bad. He never said that, and I think that's very honest, it's very great. In the background, Guts carves his own path like he always has, but this time he has Casca in hand. Despite Griffith, the object of his darkness, reappearing, he chose Casca. This single act defining the beginning of Guts' redemption. We then get a big moment from our cast during this arc. Jerome looks at the crowd of survivors. Not many made it through. He calls the situation ironic. Those who clung to God ran to the tower and died, while those who didn't believe left right away and survived. This is a very basic face value look at everything, but Luca gives us a more real and another way to look at it. Living is different than running away from fear. Those who never lost their fear and kept themselves were the ones who survived. It wasn't a matter of believing and who didn't believe. They'll never know what God is thinking, but no matter what, there'll be misfortune and fortune for people. All that matters is how they act when approached with both. She then picks flowers and releases them to the wind. They're for the person that was the egg apostle. They never knew anyone. At least one person should pay tribute, no matter how much of a sinner they were. Ishidro and Puck take after Guts and Casca, leaving the rest to worry about them. Luca has no worries. Guts didn't bat an eye at Mozgus. Yet even then, protecting and being with someone are very different things. Perfectly said. Nina worries about herself. She should stick with Luca because she's strong. But then Yoichim appears out of nowhere. He wanted to apologize. He was scared of her. He thought they would kill him. But he had to say, at least before he disappeared, how he really felt. Nina realizing he's a coward just like her. They leave together. Nina's sure she couldn't leave again if she stayed. She loves Luca and the others, but only with Yoichim can she grow stronger. After all, they're burdened by the same sins. She wants to be like Luca. She wants to keep living. Giving such a big conclusion to characters that are by all definitions background characters in this huge arc is an interesting choice, face value. Nina is in the background the entire arc. She only serves to introduce the heretics to us, and besides that, she's what she's labeled, a coward. Overall, she's far from a marvelous character, that's what I'm trying to say. But she's actually here for one simple important reason, to show that even the most average and not so great person can change. Like Corcus in the Golden Age, her choices often represent what the average person would do. Being swayed into bad choices during a time of weakness, being terrified of threats before her, and lashing out when things fall apart. Though while nothing is changed for her by the end here, there's a willingness to change despite it all. Nina is here to show this, that even though your choices suck, you're a coward, that you can push past that. You can become someone better. It's very similar to the character arc Guts has followed, that despite his own flaws, if he's willing to change, he can change. You spend so much time with Guts and his crazy escapades, it can become easy to lose track of the fact that Guts too is a person constantly changing in Berserk. Nina is placed here to make us think about this idea, and in turn, Guts. Of course, Nina isn't without Luca, and while Luca's story is simple, she's selfless and uplifts others, it too has a purpose. Luca is a reoccurring character to remind you of Berserk's reoccurring theme. Camaraderie heals. Having people around you makes everything easier. Luca was a constant reminder of this in an arc where Guts finds many unlikely allies, people who will go on to heal him as the story continues. Lastly, Farnese watches the area the tower is in. A single word coming to mind: fragile. Was the faith she stood for fragile? No, what was ultimately fragile was her. Her faith was not more than a diversion to distract herself from the darkness, a way to escape the darkness she found that night in her childhood. She had always been that little girl in the midst of that dark night. She states she'll depart. She will follow Guts, renouncing her rank and leaving with Serpico right behind her. Guts was the embodiment of the darkness she knew. It took shape right in front of her eyes, almost as if destiny. She who lived in fear of the dark would be put next to the only one standing in it. Maybe, just maybe, Guts might be her saint. This is a moment that feels like a conclusion for Farnese as a whole, and it really is, all things considered. This entire arc, Guts, the epitome of darkness, has constantly reappeared in front of her to show that darkness. This breaking Farnese's faith completely. As a child, she had burned the heretics as a way to get the approval and acceptance of everyone around her. And faith, to her, was an easy way to further get that acceptance. And well, it completely took over, her eventually leading a group of holy knights. The cracks appeared when Farnese saw the darkness and began to realize she had been suppressing it, fearing her true self the whole time. Yet the truth is, her true self was nothing. There's nothing else besides the faith. Throughout the arc, she constantly questions her holy role. In doubt, questioning Mozgus about it while confidently burning heretics at other times. She begins to question it, but tries her best to hold on to the only thing she knows. Yet at the end here, after she's survived the nightmare, she can't sit there and end the questions. She can't act like the darkness doesn't exist. It's become the truth that her faith is no longer the only thing there. Like she had insinuated, her faith was nothing more than an escape from the darkness. The faith was not her true self. In fact, she had wholeheartedly feared her true self. Here, Farnese decides that instead of committing to the fake image she's crafted, she'll pick a new route, opting to follow Guts, the epitome of the darkness she views inside herself. This here does in fact mark a conclusion for Farnese. This is the conclusion of her holy journey. Though while a conclusion to that journey, it's the beginning of another. Her journey as her true self. Even if it's wrapped in darkness like Guts, she'll follow it. Maybe it's even her destiny to follow this path. And with that, I have to say I personally absolutely love Farnese. She's easily my favorite character introduced in this arc, and I promise she only gets better as Berserk goes on. I seriously think I'd probably have her in my top 5 characters. Alas, as everyone goes their separate ways, characters conclude and new things are brought up, everything fades into the daylight. With it, School Knight watches from afar as all is said and done.
That day, starting with the fissure opening on the frontier, the shape of the world began to crumble.
And that wraps up Berserk's Conviction Arc, the arc that I would say defines what Berserk is. This is the point where Guts has finally made his big choice about the future. Up to now we've seen his backstory and how that made him a man of rage. We've seen that rage and all the effects it has on him. And all that was left was the question, what is this man's future gonna look like? Well, here it's explained. We're shown. Guts has chosen redemption over darkness. Guts had chose Casca, his flame of precious things, his lover. And better yet, he's now being followed by dependable people. While Puck has always been his buddy, and of course Casca's gonna be a big part of his life, Ishidro, Farnese, and Serpico are all following Guts now. It's really trying to enforce that central message: camaraderie heals. This idea has been a constant in the series. The Golden Age was to show that Guts had found the people around him more important than dreams. It also showed that unwavering response towards one huge idea can create monsters, like Griffith. And well, it was almost Guts himself. All to say, people are pretty important. This is then enforced many times through characters like the King and Goto. Their daughters changed their lives significantly. Without them, they wouldn't be anything. This is a pretty big turning point for Berserk. Up to now we've been chasing dreams and darkness. Well, now we're about to flourish in the warmth. This is really where Berserk starts though. Not only do we have 3 new cast characters to learn about, especially Farnese and Serpico, there's a lot to learn there, but we also have to see how Guts deals with Casca. Remember, Miura made sure to specifically say, protecting and being with someone are 2 different things. Above all else though, Griffith is actually back. From here, the story can spiral in so many different directions with that. This is also the arc where his seeds of destruction are likely sown, though of course I can't speak on that yet. It'll come back when we talk about the rest of the series. All in all, the Conviction Arc is easily one of Miura's best arcs, and better yet, it does all the work to set up the rest of the series. I think it'd be pretty fair to say this is maybe the best arc in the series. Thank you so much for watching. I have 2 other Berserk videos. This is the first one in the series you're seeing. There's one for the Golden Age and the Black Swordsman. It's in one video. And then there's another for Lost Children. Pretty cool. I also have a few other Berserk videos on my channel. Every Berserk video will be in the description if you are interested, and this is the first one you've seen. If you have seen a lot of my Berserk videos, make sure there's one you haven't missed. But of course, that's been the Conviction Arc. It'll probably be a bit before I get the next arc video because, well, this arc I think was like 8 volumes. That arc is like 20. So it's gonna be a while. That's all I gotta say. Thank you for watching. See you next time.